Yeah.
All right,
Just
go
for the
ahead.
benefit of my business partners, whom I love and adore, if you do look me up from the first slide, my last name is not Gutierrez. There's a T in there, so just want to
Oh, did I
throw that out
misspell it?
there.
Oh, I
Don't,
did.
don't look up
ZL.
don't look up David Gutierrez on a LinkedIn if we're not
No,
connected
Curtis.
because
Curtis gave you a new name. I think it was David Glutierrez.
Gutierrez. Yeah,
He
that's
never
right.
Glutierrez.
misses leg day.
That's right.
There you go.
Oh,
Fixed.
that's good. It's good. Look at that efficiency right there. Awesome.
All right. Let's do it. The reason we're recording is just so that we can pass it out to some guys who couldn't make it here today. But I'm Steven. I just wanted to say today is really informal. Stop us with any questions at any point. We are just trying to answer some questions. We know that this is abnormal. Like the topics that we talk about with a group of men is abnormal, and that's on purpose. We like it that way. But sometimes it takes a little bit of seeing to believe, I think, and it's a big investment in your future and your family, and so we want to give everybody just direct access to us to talk about it. So we're going to hit a few of the stuff that we do, what we are, kind of how we work, in that today. So I'll kick it off. I'm Steven. I'm 36. I live in Philly now, got out of the Air Force about 18 months ago. I am a first officer for United on 777s, and I still fly the KC-46 out of McGuire with the reserves, though I am trying my hardest to shed that problem. They got me. They surprised me with a commitment that we didn't know about, but neither here nor there. So I met Stu and Goody doing a what was that called, Stu? The skill
Skill
bridge.
bridge. Yeah, duty
Yeah.
skill bridge. We
Very loosely defined when you do
Yes.
yeah,
it with
we hired you to be our intern and then we gave you zero work whatsoever.
Yes, it was the best. So that's how I originally met these guys. And I help a lot with the technical. I'm kind of a lot of the behind the scenes, creating some of these, some of the member portal and website and that kind of stuff that we work on. So I'll pass it over to Stu.
Well, and he's humbling himself. We would not this mastermind would not exist without Stephen, because David and I know how to do zero of that kind of stuff, and so we absolutely need Stephen to keep us all on track, especially David. So yeah, Stu Grazier. I live currently in Parker, Colorado, a suburb of Denver. I was actually born and raised in Texas. We're actually leaving this afternoon to drive to Texas. I don't know why I'm choosing to go there in July, but my dad's side of the family all lives here in Colorado, and so we have a lot of family here. And I was fortunate enough to end my Navy career here in Colorado and retired last June after 20 years. I've been married to my beautiful bride Crystal for the last 15 years, and we have two amazing children. Collins, age 8, daughter, and Wells, age 5, son. And David and I, we were college roommates at the Naval Academy. We were together. I carried him through all 4 years of the Naval Academy, and then we've just continued to stay really close. We actually were fortunate to be stationed together in Naples, Italy, at the same time, and so we did a lot of traveling. Families know each other. Collins, my daughter, was born in Italy, and David was there soon after to be able to greet her into the world. And so we've just been best friends. And around that time, about 4 or 5 years prior to getting out, we decided to build some real estate businesses together. And we can get more into the origin story of the Kinetic Man and where that all came from as we go forward. David, over to you.
Yeah, one thing I appreciate about intros is I learn something new about myself every time Stu introduces himself. So it's always an adventure. But I want to highlight two things. One, Stephen being extremely humble, but this is also goes into what this group is all about. So when you are very intentional about who you surround yourself with, right? Who you do business with, who you're friends with, where you you have your interactions, it's it's uh it's something that's very curious that happens, that when you up that level of people to hang out with, you're challenged in different ways. And so like Stephen, oftentimes I think he takes delight in being a contrarian and being like, I don't know if I like that logo. Well, I don't know if I like those colors. Well, I don't know if I like you guys' ideas or your haircut, right? And so it really forces us to change and to mold. And this truly would not be a thing I do not believe that without Steven, Stewart, and David, the Kinetic Man would just absolutely not be a thing because of what each strand of that cord, what we each bring to it. And so I'm David Gutierrez, also 20-year Navy vet. I have a beautiful wife, 3 adorable children. And Steven asked me to share. We love sharing dad fail stories. And if you listen to our podcast, there's some things that we some stories that we share, but instead of a dad fail funny story, I wanted to highlight something again where groups like this up your game and where friends up your game. This past weekend we went creeking. No idea what that was. Yes, I do bring rainbows and the realism. But Stu, he said, "Hey man, we talked. Let's hang out." Right. And then he proceeded to change the plan like 35, 40 times. And by the time that we were going to hang out, I was super, super salty on Sunday. We didn't get to church. There were a couple things. My daughter is 12. There's some interesting, some attitudes that have like overnight things have changed. Relationships are changing. And it's just, I was just in a really salty mood. And I'm like, you know what, kids? Like, I'm considering just not doing, let's just stay at home, whatever, which is very atypical, but I didn't. Stu was there at the creek waiting. So we packed up the kids and we went and we had an amazing time. Within 3 minutes of being there, we're all jumping in, we're splashing. They built me a head of moss hair with bugs and everything coming out, biting me, but it was just a blast. Kids are having a great time and it was amazing. And so I just want to highlight, the big part of who I am today and who I am now has to do with, my intro has to do with the fact that I'm surrounded by dudes like Stuart and Steven. And if you pick dudes that are uglier than you, it also makes you feel better, right? So like there's all these benefits to what we do. And so that leads to the Kinetic Man. So what is the point of the Kinetic Man? Why do we even do this? And Stu and I had been a part of a number of masterminds, business focused ones. I mean, these were significant investments. These were not these weren't just $10 a month membership type masterminds. These were things that we had to significantly budget for and be a part of. And they were amazing for what they were. But as we transitioned out of the military and we were struggling with our identity, we thought we had it figured out. We got, some businesses started. We've got some things. I think we have some purpose. Like we're gonna be good, but it just wasn't the case. In our network, we were seeing ourselves struggling in our homes. We're seeing ourselves struggling with who we are, with who we were, battling with, seeing in those other mastermind groups, a huge focus on money. And if I make more money and get more doors, then I'm going to be happy. That doesn't happen. You're just seeing people losing their families, not winning at home. And so as we like really got together and Steven's internship with our real estate business, we started talking about these things, right? We started talking about, why are men on the sidelines? And then that's where the Kinetic came from. Why are they not kinetic? Why is there so much potential? What are men, what are we missing, and what are we seeing in our network? There's a lack of purpose. There's a lack of adventure. Dudes are not doing stuff together. They're not having fun. They're not deep relationship with each other. And so that really forced us to dive deeply into this for the last 18 months of not only the science and the spirituality and the physicality and all the things that make us a man, but just really identifying areas that we were missing out on and doing something about it. And that's where you see, I'll let you guys read it, but we were just seeing a lack of purpose, adventure, meaningful relationships. And we knew that in our own experience, because we were doing it, that there was something you could do about that to change it.
Yeah, so I want to add that when we started this journey of the Kinetic Man, it didn't start as the Kinetic Man. It actually started as just a group of 10 dudes who David and I knew would show up. David and I were going through the transition from military 20 years to civilian life, to full-blown entrepreneur. And we had started to see some challenges in our life that we were struggling with. And so we invited 10 men that we knew would show up on a weekly basis, that would walk through a journey of helping us selfishly become better in core areas of our life that we said were a priority, but we weren't really taking action on. And so we started meeting once a week on Zoom, and we found some massive change, not only in us, but in the other 10 men that started showing up with us every single week. There were tears, there's laughter. We got real and vulnerable and honest, like really fast. And we just came together as a community, as a tribe. and we've grown significantly. From that, we saw that there was something magic to it. And so we decided to invite another group. And so we're now at about around 40 men. There's 3 groups of 10 to 15 men, similar to like what you'd see in a church small group. And that small group gets together every single week and gets honest, gets vulnerable, gets real, and they grow together and they talk and they have hard conversations, fun conversations. They laugh, they cry, all together to grow individually, and also as a community in these conversations. And Stephen's going to kind of go into what those topics look like on our next slide.
Yeah,
I just want to highlight, not everybody, nothing wrong with crying. Some people cry more often than others.
Hey, man.
Every meeting, and I love it. And it's beautiful.
Real men cry. Real men cry.
Real men cry. Real men cry all the time. And I love it.
Before we leave this slide, I just want to piggyback off of Stu, what you said to the original, well, across all of the groups of men, but I think what surprised us with ourselves and with the original group of men, we at one point the 3 of us were sitting down, and we were all about 9 months, 12 months out from leaving the military, and you guys had a real estate business flipping 60, 50 houses a year. Yeah. We had a Marine One pilot who got asked to extend as a Marine One pilot, which is very abnormal because he was so good at his job, who got out and was basically drifting and asked if we could connect him with somebody to find a job because he didn't know what he wanted to do, and is now doing multi-million-dollar stuff in Tulsa. We had a Navy SEAL who wasn't quite sure where he wanted to head and how he was going to apply his skills. We had a guy who runs an amazing website that if I use the name of the website, you would probably recognize it in the military circles, and just wasn't quite sure if his choice after the military. We asked ourselves, is transition for a lot of us out of the military, is it always a train wreck? No matter how prepared you are? And the answer was, yeah, I think so. And it's just because there is this missing piece of tribes of people who talk about the difficulties of doing a transition like that, or shifting careers, or shifting purpose and focus towards hey, I don't want to do 60 hours a week anymore and miss my kids growing up and that kind of thing. So I just want to highlight how successful the guys were who were sitting down and saying this has been really impactful. So what do we do in the Kinetic Man? We talked to Stu mentioned it. We meet every week on Zoom. Each house meets privately. We record every call. Every call that we do, no matter what, is recorded and posted into our private member portal. But we basically break it up into months. And so the first couple of months we go through something called hot seats, which I won't give any of that away yet because I think that's it's exciting and important when we first start to really build trust among the guys. So guys are sharing stuff that they likely have not shared with anybody else, possibly not their wife. And then we go into a syllabus, and we start with clarity of what you want, what the goalpost is at the end of your life. And we have some exercises that make you think about that. And then we talk about identity. What are the different masks that we wear? When do we wear them? How are they helping us? How are they hurting us? How does that identity drive your values, right? Is your identity a military man? That probably gives you, there's some values that extend from that. Is your identity a Christian man? There's values that typically extend from that. Is it as an atheist, right? Is it as, an excellent gardener? Whatever it is, your values typically follow your identity. And then what is your purpose? What's your why? Kind of a very Simon Sinek style, starting with why. We take all of those things and then we break it into 9 different topics. And these are the 9 topics that we really kind of whittled down, starting with that original group. And so those are the color topics here in the middle. We start with habits. So we send you James Clear's book talking about atomic habits. We go through that for a month and we learn how to set new habits, how to set morning routines and evening routines, and how they can set your day up. And that is just a foundational skill to take into everything else, because each one of the months is going to give you, you're going to have to identify a change, a habit that you are going to change every month. So you're going to finish the first year with 12 new habits, and they're going to be small. They're going to be small changes. One of mine the first year was taking my phone and moving my phone charger. So I had to do two things. I had to Amazon an old school clock that had an alarm, and I had to take my phone charger and put it in a different room. That was the decision that I made for Health Month. And that was the new habit. And I still do it. There's a charger. I don't know why. There's a charger on a wall socket over here, and it lays on the floor. I haven't even bothered putting it on a desk. So I literally walk into my office every night. I plug it in and I throw my phone on the floor. But you know what I don't do now? I don't doom scroll for an hour before bed. I don't check email before I get up. I go downstairs. My son typically follows me down. I have a cup of coffee, and then I come up and I dig my phone out and I deal with it, right? Like life-changing, small action. We're going to empower you and encourage and accountability to making those, types of actions all throughout the year. So we dive into family, faith, intimacy, friends, fun. We take a month off in the summer for everyone. We believe that taking white space and time off is important. We built that into our lives. We build it into the membership. We talk about mindset, health, giving, and finance. So there's kind of three big categories that you might see in our content that we talk about. So meaningful relationships, energy. So energy covers health and mindset and fun, and then stewardship, and that's giving and finances. So every week we break that down using what we call the REAL framework. So the first week, so each topic is a month. And then a month is broken down into 4 weeks. So you reflect, you execute, you count, and you live. And so over here on the left is an example of the worksheets that we use every month. So this is the fun worksheet. So the first week, we're going to ask a bunch of questions. And it's sort of like have you guys ever heard of like the why exercise? Like you ask why 7 times, and then you truly get to like a real answer, kind of the root of the problem. And so that's the kind of questions that we go, okay, what was the funnest time you had? Like think back, write down. And so we do a lot of writing. We do a lot of journaling. So we give guys, it's okay, 2 minutes on the clock. Everyone go on mute, write down, think about like, what are the top 2 fun times in your entire life you can think of? And guys will come up with stuff like, in college, I took a trip to California and we road tripped it, right? That was like some of the most joy I've had. And then we go, okay, what has changed since then, right? Write down some of the things you've changed. Okay, what is keeping you from doing that now? And what would it take, right? So like we sort of move down these questions that really make you think. The next week is execute. And so we have an action, and that's kind of where these habits start. We have an action that every guy is supposed to take, and we talk about it. We go through some science-backed, some research-backed behavioral change approaches to implement changes. The third week, we break into small groups on the call, and we just talk about, we have some prompts that make you think, right? So on finance month, right? The prompt might be, hey, how much money are you planning on leaving your kids? Have you thought about that? Is it something like, yeah, we talk about finances and good stewardship and everything else, but like the prompts are kind of just really thought provoking and getting conversation going amongst the guys. These conversations typically spill over into some of our chat channels. And then the fourth one is live. So at the end of every month, you write a 2-sentence 10-year vision for that topic. So for fun, it might be, hey, my family is regularly taking trips that are low cost but high joy to our local area, and we take a trip once a year. These kinds of things. You're thinking about it. And that way, at the end of the year, we're going to help walk through that journey. And at the end of the year, you have these 2 sentences for each, and you have this life vision at the end that helps you map out how to build your life around that. All right, so what do you get inside the master?
One thing on that real quick. I just want to highlight, this is very individual, right? Like there are things that you're doing here that is very, very individual. But what I'll tell you, what has been one of the most magical things for me in my life is a great example is this weekend creaking. I've never heard of creaking. I thought we were going to do, I had no idea. My mind went to like West Virginia, Deliverance, and I'm like, dude, what are you getting me into, dude? Like, I don't know any about this stuff. But what's magical is that there are so many ideas that come from the collective, which is why we do it this way, specifically the Reflect month initially, or the Reflect week initially. There's so many things I've incorporated in my life that I never even knew existed or thought about, whether that's from investing and finances, whether it's things I do with my kids. And so I don't want to lose the fact that this is one of the most magical parts of this process, this group, is that you're exposed to things that other guys are doing and you just never even considered, and it could be life changing. It could be relationship changing, and it's such a great part of being surrounded by guys like this.
Yeah, it's almost hard to not pass over as mundane guys in our group saying that changed my life, like you saying that to one of the other guys, and they just said something, you know, that they think is normal every day. It's pretty powerful. So this is just kind of how we use all of our different tools. So we have a private member area that it's a software called circle.co. It's sort of Facebook-ish like, but very private and custom to us. We have a library of all the recordings we've ever done. So the other thing that we do is once a month, we have a town hall where we get the whole mastermind together. It's the last Thursday of every month. We bring in guest speakers, or we speak on a topic that has been interesting to us, or we do a book club, that kind of thing. We try and read about $4 a year with the whole mastermind, and I think we're going to be better about that going forward next year. We already have some of them planned out. So all of those calls are in a library. So you can go back already 18 months worth of different calls, and we do things like an exercise that we took everybody through of writing down 100 wants, 100 selfish wants. Like what is 100 things you want to do in your life? And that was actually a surprisingly difficult exercise for most guys. We have a guy who is a LinkedIn ninja who came on and gave everybody 5 actions they should take on their LinkedIn page. That is probably a very valuable resource for most of us guys who are using LinkedIn, but probably not using it very well. And it was very actionable. It was, this is how you should do your name. This is how you should do your profile. This is how you should change the URL so that your name is in the URL, not random digits, right? That's in there. It's all kinds of stuff. We have we do a retreat twice a year. So one in May and one in September. The one in September is actually coming up. And so our membership guys, they get the pre-sale. So they're able to sign up and they get a discount. So they're able to sign up before anybody else, which we expect as these fill up over time, that's actually going to become more important, is they'll always have a guaranteed seat and they have a discount, fairly significant discount to it. It's interesting. One of our guys said to me this recently. I used to work for a personal finance podcast. I wrote some military personal finance material, whatever. And one of the guys reached out to me and had some questions about how to set up some of his stuff. And when we were done, he was like, you know, what's amazing about this group is, yeah, it's kind of led by Stu and Goody and me, but really it's a group of 45 coaches, all in different specialties. So we've got guys who are, marriage counselors. We've got guys who run solar businesses and run franchises and a lot of real estate, a lot of deals, a lot of funding, guys who are missionaries down in Mexico, right? So we just have this amazingly diverse group of men. We encourage everybody to put their contact info in their bio. That way you can reach out to them. And we have some tools that we use here. So this is what our private membership area looks like on the left, called the Lodge. And so this is just an example of some of the channels that are in there. There's a general channel. There's a bunch of general channels that everybody has access to. And then there's some areas that is private to the house, right? So the house recordings are private. Those are we take discretion and privacy very seriously within the Kinetic Man, because of how the kind of stuff that's shared. And so, you notice here, I blocked out names, right? And I picked some stuff that was very generic. I picked my own post, but so the stuff on the right is some WhatsApp groups. So the WhatsApp group is with everybody. It's very active. Every single day there's new posts in there. Sometimes it's funny stuff. A lot of times it's wins. And again, it's ideas that you've never thought of, right? One of the guys recently had his son come back from a summer camp, and his son brought back this sheet, and it was like, they had a class about how to grow up into a good man. And it was a sheet, and it was like, a boy does this, a man does this. boy does this, and a man does this, and it was a whole sheet of these kinds of things, and it was just something that his kid had brought home. His kid was excited about it. He saw it and he was like, this is amazing. He snapped a photo of it and dropped it in our channel, right? Like, I never would have been exposed to that in whatever town he's in, but it was a really cool resource, and it was a resource that we're probably going to pull down and make something similar for our guys for that. But the WhatsApp group of 40 men that are like-minded and aren't talking about football, they're not talking about the weather, they're not talking about beer, they're talking about how to be amazing husbands, date night ideas, how to this morning, that was my post this morning, right? Like, my kid wakes up and wants to go outside every single morning, and I come up with every excuse why I can't go outside at 7:30 in the morning. And this morning it was like 87 degrees at 7:30 this morning. It's going to be miserable in Philly. And I was like, you know what? So this is language we use inside of the Kinetic Man that has just sort of kind of formed, which is, don't be the fun police, right? More connecting, less correcting as a dad. And so I said, you know what? I am not going to be the fun police. Son, if you want to go out at 7:30 in the morning and get in the pool, let's do it. Like, I will bring my coffee out there. I brought my speaker out. We put the Metallica playlist on. I'm raising him right. And he got in the pool, not even in a swimsuit, right? In his pajamas at 7:30 this morning. And I threw the ball to my dog and they had a blast. And I was like, what's wrong with this? Why have I said no to this for so long? Right? That kind of stuff. So it is a simple WhatsApp group, but it's full of powerful changes.
And let me add, we do a weekly challenge inside that group too. And it's a weekly challenge. It could be very easy or it could be very hard. And all of the challenges come from a topic within that Kinetic Life Circle that we've ran through. And we created recently just a Facebook group, and I'll typically post that same challenge a week later, but it's a weekly challenge, and it could be anywhere from doing 50 push-ups every single day to writing a letter to your wife of how grateful you are, to drinking 100 ounces of water per day, to going on a hike with no cell phone devices, to 24 hours digital detox. Like, so just tons of different challenges, and the men get after it every single week.
And I also want to highlight, how seriously we take, the discretion we have towards privacy. Even within the group, the hot seats portion are not recorded. So there's no access to get back to hot seats, for anybody, because the one thing I want to be absolutely clear on that we haven't necessarily hit is that the ground rules for this group are honesty and transparency, right? And you have to be vulnerable. This is not, Stephen hit on it with the conversation about the weather and the football. That's not this. There's a time and a place for that. And I love weather and I love football. But this is 1 hour a week where a bunch of dudes who you highly respect, both professionally and personally, come together and, no kidding, have very real conversations about very real topics that are extremely deep and oftentimes very emotional. We've had guys come in and talk about their marriages and different things that have happened to the level, extremes, right? And this group, this sometimes is oftentimes is the only place these conversations have ever ever been had. And these men have just been carrying it for, in some cases, years. I'm thinking specifically of a guy back in 2008, something happened in his marriage, and he's literally been carrying that since 2008. And this group was an outlet for him to finally just get it. It was an outpouring of emotion for him. And I can't imagine the relief it took off his shoulders. So I just want to be very clear, we talk about identity, we talk about who we are. And this, this is the power of identity is something that we saw as we were transitioning out of the military, because me personally, I don't want to speak for anybody else. I personally had discounted. I wasn't that guy that was like, hey, I'm Commander Gutierrez. I'm a naval officer. Like, I didn't use the language of identifying with that thing as my life. There were other things that I identified with, whether it was, being a Christian, a husband, a father, that were much higher on my list than being a naval officer. But I think I also discredited the level of impact that did have in my life, and the level of identity that putting on a uniform for 25 years truly had. And so as I was searching for this true deep identity, which I felt I had a pretty strong sense in, there was still a sense of loss as we transitioned, right? And so the idea of a kinetic man and the identity that embodies was something that was very, very important for us to really dive into. And Stephen hit on the topics earlier, but these are areas that we know Kidding have built out, health, mindset, fun, faith, intimacy, family, giving, finances, friends, and no kidding built out like what that really means and what actions look like in these areas, because these are the kind of men that we want to be. And we'll send this out and you can read it on your own time. But one of the wives actually reached out and sent this email that we included. And it was such a beautiful impact on both Stu and I started crying on reading this. And actually I almost started crying in the podcast. Yes, not almost. I started crying on the podcast yesterday. I just wasn't speaking when you read it again to Jerry, because it's so profound that this wife took the time out of her day to write specifically to Stu about how different her husband is showing up, not only in their relationship, but in the relationship with their kids and what impact that's having on their house. And some very specific language in here, like, the core values for our family. That is a very specific thing we spend a month going into, is core values for your family. And so this stuff is not just, it's not light. It's very profound. The intent here that's built in is to create deep men, right? And a lot of you are already deep, but it's getting that out. It's tapping that and sharing it with others, and ultimately to make an impact and to be an impactful person in your community, your home, and your family. I mean, all these areas. And also, we're passionate about business, to take that into your business, right? To take the ideas and the leadership into your businesses and make significant changes and impact there as well. So this is something that and the guys touched on this, but there are so many stories that we've seen. I mean, guys reaching out to their dads who abandoned them 30 years ago, literally no contact for 30 years, no contact. Just know, I just know I have a dad, like that level of change.
Didn't even have a
action.
contract address. Didn't know
have
where
a
to mail it.
contact, didn't know anything. And through the course of these conversations, not only one of the guys in the group literally said something that changed all of our perspective and gave us empathy on the dad who left's perspective. And some things came out of that conversation that were like, man, this is deep. And it had a huge impact. And then ultimately that resulted in him reaching out to his dad, and now they're in conversation. Again, this isn't like, it's not kumbaya after 30 years of, Dad, I finally found you. And they run through a field and hug and jumping and embrace, right? It's not that, but it's progress. It's steps forward. It's meaningful, and it impacts the entire group. And so we could spend a whole nother webinar on just the impacts that guys are making. One of my favorites too, I was telling a good buddy of mine last night about it. A dear friend of mine came to Christ through the group, right? And that was a very important thing in his life that transformed because of some of the other guys pouring into him, and it was the decision that he felt was right for him and his family. And what a beautiful thing. And so how do you really measure an ROI on those types of things? How do you measure an ROI on this wife reaching out and saying, hey, my husband is a better dude for all of us? It's pretty magical.
I think one of the biggest impacts we have seen, the three of us, like starting with the three of us, we started to use this language, and we've seen it in just about every guy's. Stu, I know you use this story a lot, right? You look 10 years down the road and your ship was headed towards the direction of being roommates with your wife. And that is language that has really resonated with a lot of our guys, and we make a concerted effort to change that. And I think that's where this email, one of the reasons this email came across.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's, again, selfishly, it's made a huge impact for the three of us. Let's continue pushing forward, because I want to leave some time for some questions if anybody has any. So how to join? We are. This is all about opening up House 3. It's going to start the second week in September, and it's going to be a weekly call on Zoom. Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Mountain Time. We do all of our calls in the middle of the week, in the middle of the workday, so it doesn't impact our family. We're not doing night calls. We're not doing weekend calls. So this is what it is, So, and we do understand that impacts people who are still active duty military, still have W-2s, still have meetings, and we know that but it's not an area that we want to budge on. So you can go to our website if you're interested in joining it. There we do have an application. We are looking for certain specific individuals. There are questions on there. We read them. We want to make sure it's not only right for you, but it's right for us too. And you can go to connectman.com. You can go to the mastermind tab. There's a join now button, and that will get you to the application. And there's only 15 slots. We max it out at 15 people. We already do have applications in process that we're looking through. So it is a full-blown application process.
We'll send this slide.
yeah.
We're going to send this slideshow out. It's like you'll have this information on this slide plus some other stuff.
Yep. Okay, let's open it up to questions. We have a few minutes left. If you guys have any questions at all, we know that there are some common questions that we've received, and we're happy to go over those. But what do you guys have for us? Stu, this is awesome. I want to join immediately. No questions. All right, cool.
Dude, I have a question. Is it true? I've heard it said that by joining the Kinetic Man, you also get better looking.
That's
Is
not
that a
true.
true thing?
It's not true. No, it's not true.
I've been using that as a selling point.
You've proven that false pretty significantly.
Proven that false. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. There's a few questions we typically get, so I'll run through those, and then if that sparks any thoughts, you guys jump in. So we typically have guys ask, is this a military group? The answer is no. Every house has at least one, sometimes two or three non-military guys, but I would say we're about 75% military guys. So the vast majority are military guys, and that's just kind of the stories and the vibe, if you will. But we definitely do not have all military guys, and we love our non-military guys. Russell out in Hawaii was one of our first non-military guys. And the second question that we typically get is it a Christian group? And this answer is in the application as well. We kind of put some information in there, and the answer is no, it is not a Christian group. We have some guys who don't particularly follow any one faith. And but what we do say is that faith is important. If you go back to this tab here, we do think faith is important. It's an important pillar in whatever you believe in, like whatever your core values and morals stand on. And we say that David and Stu are very publicly Christian, and so that's the perspective that they bring, and we don't hide that. Stu, David, would you have anything to add on that?
No, and I think what's really important when people say, and these are the identity things, right? When people say, I'm not a person of faith. What I love about this specific pillar is the self-awareness component of it, right? Like, you have faith in something. It just, what is it? Let's identify it. So I have faith in my bank account because it has a certain number. Awesome. Let's dig into that. Is it truly a place that you should have faith? Because like that can disappear tomorrow. And so what I love about the faith element, why it's so important, is we all have faith in something. A lot of us just don't know what it is. And so the awareness of bringing words to that is a very, very powerful exercise. And that's through all these components, right? When you talk about any of these things, one of the biggest parts is the reflect week, where you start really digging in, personally and as a group, into what these things mean. But you also start getting language for your own life that you may not have considered in the past. Excuse me. And the revelations from that have been nothing short of pretty magnificent for all of us. Even somebody, Stu and I being professed Christians, loving, Jesus loving dudes. This exercise has really caused me to dig much, much deeper, and it's been a beautiful thing.
How quickly does it fill up? I mean, how much time does a person have to deliberate on something like this?
There's only one spot left. You got to make a decision now. I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
I figured.
Right now.
No, it's there's no real time for. I mean, you can absolutely. We expect from this and completely welcome follow-on conversations and chit chats and very selfishly, I love connecting and talking with folks. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, and we fully expect to have follow-on conversations. So it's not like a pressure today, like go,
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is going to open.
You
We're
don't have to go to
targeting
the back of the
September for
room and
opening
sign up
doors.
right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And buy our book while you're at it.
Yeah.
it's
You
not
got
that.
10 seconds. Right. I
Yeah.
got you.
No
So
rush.
I would say next steps are definitely check out the website, and if you are still interested, then possibly even schedule a one-on-one call with one of us, Stu or David, or just go through the join. So go through the submit button and kind of read through that page. There's some pretty detailed information like on that submit page in the application. Like I said, it's info for us as well as info for y'all. And I would say to try and actually give you a solid answer, Paul, we are having another Q&A about a month from now. And I would say that sometime between now and then is when I'm hoping that the next Q&A fills up the last spots, if that answers your question.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
I have a quick question. So what is the leadership of the Kinetic Man organization? And are you guys the coaches of this new group? Is it somebody else? Like, how do the three of you or the leadership of the organization translate into coaching of the new group?
Dave, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, so we when we started, we initially were I would say the facilitators of the first three houses. We have put significant effort to try to effectively create a structure that is scalable and also brings in opportunities for members of the group to run future houses. They've been through the process. It's a requirement that we have to run future houses. You've been through it, you understand the culture. So from a leadership, if I understand the question correctly, the leadership, the founding members are Stuart, myself, and Stephen. And then there's, excuse me, a number of gentlemen from the first, the group we call the OG house, the original group that have gone completely through the curriculum. And we're, excuse me, we're using, some of those guys are going to come in and they're going to run future houses. And so that's the process. And we hope to, as we continue to scale, that's always the process. That's always the cycle is that there's guys that have gone through it that are passionate about, hey man, I would love to be running a group of a house. And that's something that's really important to us, is to create those opportunities. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have a coach in mind already in place for this group that, we're being asked to look into joining, or is that still TBD?
Yeah, we've got a couple. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was to say, to get more specific on that question, what does it look like? Is yes, we do have a coach. We have some coaches that we are looking at for this house, and so that's why we're not making that public yet. And this is a little bit of behind the scenes that we're sort of realigning our houses to all be on the same topic and at the same time, starting in September, starting with this house. So y'all, the house that's opening in September is actually going to be like a big pivot point for us. And so what would it actually look like for house 3 and for every other house going forward from September is that Dave and Stu will lead week 1 of every topic. So the entire mastermind is going to, right now it's that every house does every topic all 4 weeks by themselves. But we're going to do how all of the houses on week 1 together in one big call. So it's going to be, 50, 55, 60 people, because it's mostly reflection questions, right? It's mostly writing. It's mostly them giving prompts, and they're going to kind of deliver the importance of the topic and what we've researched about it, and walk through those questions and some things to think about. And then weeks 2, 3, and 4 are going to be privately in each house with their coach. And so, yes, you guys will have a coach. We haven't announced who that is yet, as well as every other house who currently is having Stu and David lead it are also going to have internal coaches for weeks 2, 3, and 4. But the beauty is that right now, that WhatsApp group and in the lodge, everyone's on a different topic every month, because the houses started at different times. And so we're realigning that now all 60 people are going through family together. And so that allows us to put challenges out, not just with the house, but with the whole mastermind as a whole. So that was probably more information than you asked for, but hopefully it answered your question specifically.
More
Let me,
information, but exactly what I was looking for. So appreciate it.
well,
That's
let me add to it, Mike.
Steven.
The coaches that that are kind of in the pipeline for taking and running houses. One, they've already been through the curriculum entirely, and two, most of them are either completely certified as a coach and already doing coaching on the side as a profession in some arena, either like life coaching, health coaching, marriage coaching. And so they already doing coaching as it is already.
Perfect. And I'll shut up. I appreciate the information, but I've
No,
done
man,
a
it's
couple
good.
of these groups in the past, and they're like, wow, hey, this is fantastic. I love the introductory, the information, like the guy I just connected with and then paid him my money and never saw him again. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this kind of sucks. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
just curious.
That's fair. And I wrote that as a note. We need to put that on here. So very specifically, there is a 4-month introduction period. And so Stu and David are going to run 2 of those 4 months. It's going to be the clarity, identity, values, and purpose section are going to be run by Stu and David with the coach to kind of lay the foundation. This is the identity of a kinetic man. And here is like our foundation. Hot seats will be run by the coach kind of stepping up and starting to take on that role. And then once you finish with that portion, that will only be with that house. And then once you're done with that 4-month intro portion, then that house, we lined it up on purpose. That house dumps in to the larger group in January, starting with habits. And then boom, you're off to the races for an entire year of topics with the entire rest of the mastermind. That is the most specific answer to your question.
And Mike, I really appreciate, my mind was not, the context you just gave for that question is very important. So I really appreciate you being transparent with that, because my mind did not go to that, really the way you would feel in that perspective is a bait and switch, right? And so that's a very important point that I think we should acknowledge. So thank you for that. That's not something I really even had considered. And I could
Thanks,
see,
guys.
like, if you expected me to coach and Stu as a coach, like I could totally see where that would be like, for me at least, a game changer. And
Completely
I'd probably just
overwhelmed.
leave. I'd
Completely
probably just leave the
overwhelmed.
group.
Hey,
That's great.
how often are the in-person meetups?
Twice a
What's
year
a
right
week?
now.
Oh, I'm sorry. In
In
person. I'm
person.
sorry.
Yeah,
Twice a year.
twice a year. And
Yes.
where are they typically located?
Colorado right now. We're doing we have made a really great relationship with a summer camp in Empire, Colorado. It's an organization called Easter Seals, and it's a summer camp for children with disabilities. And they have tons of different cabins. They have quite a few, two really large lodges. And in their off season, we've coordinated and worked and created a relationship where we basically rent out the lodges. It's 200 acres. It's a beautiful location. It's got like a fishing pond, climbing walls, hiking trails, disc golf, like just tons of awesomeness. And so we go up there and do 3-day retreats in the mountains. So September and May are the 2 primary months identified.
So this photo is taken at our most recent retreat. That's all the guys. So we have a private chef that comes in, and this is like in the cafeteria lodge. We do all of our meetings and stuff, and so that photo is a good example of it. And I wanted to highlight too. I actually meant to mention this, that the retreats are open to anyone. So if this is a big commitment, we recognize that. And if you're looking for some way to sort of step in and sort of see what our tribe is about, the retreats are also a great way to do that. Just come join us for 3 days. A lot of our guys like to say that we hide fun as a business expense for our retreats, because there's a lot of business that is spoken around the edges, but our main topics are not about business. Our main topics were all about identity and redefining success. And we have an amazing speaker who comes and helps us out with that. But the retreats are another great option to get plugged in.
Yeah, and I also don't want to lose one side when Stu, when you mentioned the organization that we partner with here. We also just want to be completely clear. We partner with a number of different organizations that we support. Specifically, you know, we get to know the founders of these organizations, and one of the reasons to align the schedule, back to the scheduling question, is if everybody's on the same schedule, we do one town hall a month on a Thursday. So when that big group comes together, we're all on the same topic. That doesn't exist currently. That's going to exist starting September, which is a big advantage as well. And so the whole group can talk about very specifically, we're all talking about the same thing in our small groups. But what's also really cool is we do once a month, we do a vote for where we give, we take 10% of all the proceeds from this and we give it to organizations that we partner with. And so giving and these things, again, everything that we do is very intentional, and it's, you know, we practice as we preach these things. And so there's opportunities to get together at town halls, vote on different organizations. And when Stu mentioned this organization, it's just one that we support and we love. And there's things that you have an opportunity as a member to nominate, you know, as long as it's in line with the core values of the Kinetic Man, to nominate your own organizations that you want to support, and the proceeds, if it's voted for, will go to that. So it's just a really cool element of one of the things that a lot of members have really appreciated is nominating their organizations, and then we just give money to different organizations throughout the year. So it's pretty cool.
The men collectively, we don't run it. One of our members actually like shepherds that, but we have a donor advised fund that's run by the men.
What else? What you guys got? Other questions?
I
Awesome. Well,
selfishly
hey, we
want
want
more. These have been great questions, and I'm writing all of them
Yeah.
down to add to this presentation. So
No, we really appreciate you guys. We want to honor your time. We're at the hour, and I just want to personally express just my complete gratitude for you guys showing up. Appreciate the questions. It helps us grow. It helps sharpen us, and just the interaction, seeing your faces is really really something that's a bright light for the rest of the day. So even with you guys with your cameras off, just seeing your names there is a pleasure. So thank you guys for giving us your time. Thank you for trusting us with this valuable resource, and really appreciate it. And like you know, Steven said, go to the website, and you can find us on LinkedIn. Facebook is probably a terrible way to get to me specifically, but LinkedIn is a great way to get to any of us. If you want to have a follow-on conversation, I intend to call your names down. I intend to reach out today just to connect if we're not already connected. So thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
We'll stay on for a few minutes if anybody has any last minute questions, and we will be sending the replay out to everybody via email.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks,
coming.
Paul.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Scoop.
Thank
Tell
you.
Russ hi if you see him. Give him a hug for me.
I will. Hopefully I'll see him soon. He spoke
Yeah.
highly of you. So
Oh, that's good. That's good.
yeah.
we need
Y'all have a good
to
one.
we need to make
Yeah.
it out to Hawaii to see all the Hawaiian people.
Yeah,
Yep.
man.
Our
Come
Leo
let me know
retreat
when
there
you're out
someday.
here.
Yeah.
Make it happen.